Well, I can't compare really to previous years, but the selection of films that I've seen, I thought it was pretty interesting, and there were also a few that I'd never heard of. So for me, it was also first way to notice them, and some I thought were quite interesting, and I wonder if they come to our country as well. It's difficult to deny that in a lot of documentaries you see both attention to Roma people and also to that parts of Europe or outside of Europe, for instance Russia, that they become more autocratic and become less democratic, and within Europe and without Europe, I would say, and also become more right-wing in a way. And that's also, I think, a subject that was depicted in quite a few of the documentaries I've seen. I guess so, but I think it's much more universal, and that's why I also said I'm wondering if they come to our country, because maybe it's more further away than for us living in the Netherlands, for instance, but it is not that far away, and it's also in our own country, so it's much more universal theme. And maybe there's more attention to it, and maybe also more as a subject for documentaries, but I think it's also very much something that we need to see. Film Institute is actually a merger between 4 institutions. So it's the Filmmuseum, and I used to work for the Filmmuseum as a programmer, as distributor, and the Dutch Institute for Film Education, Filmbank, which is promoting and safeguarding Dutch experimental short films, and Holland Film, which is promoting Dutch films abroad. So it's 4 different companies that form together one institute with a huge number of activities. But I'm mainly connected to the programming department, and I also buy films for our archival collection and for distribution in the Netherlands. Our venue is based on the other bank of the city. So for a lot of people, Amsterdam always ended at the central station and the river next to it. So for a lot of people in Amsterdam didn't even cross the water to go to the other quarter of town. And although there live about 150,000 people, it was considered a remote area, and there was no cinema there for more than 30 years. So you could also say, as a cinema, we have 4 screens, but as a cinema we have a local function for the people living in that area, also a task for the whole city, but also a task for the Netherlands and task for the world. So we program on different levels. So we have, for instance, we show some new titles, new films that are also showing in other areas in the town. But we also have a lot of very special programs. We do a lot with silent films, with live music, experimental films, experimental cinema. And my task is mainly to do the first run programming. And first run can be both new titles, but can also be a re-release of a classic, or to get an old title back in the program. And the criteria, since we serve so many different publics, I would say, well, we never program something only to get people in, to get ahead, to earn money. No, we want to show special films, good films, mainly author films, and we also try to give them as much as possible a context where you learn more and also learn more to appreciate that film. So we also organize retrospectives or side programs, or we show more films from the same country, or we show a short before the feature, or we do something with lectures of introductions to do more than just show a film. I think for all the films it goes that the films that we select need to touch you in the head or in the heart some way. I think in general, but you should also make it easy for the audience to be in contact with that. And of course it starts already with education and during the school years, but I really feel that also our venue really contributes to have more people and have more people experience it, and also more people like it than when you are in our previous venue was completely different. There we really had a local audience, and now being in a new beautiful building that also in itself already also attracts an audience, it works much better to fulfill these tasks. I think it's hard to say, because in one way I think there's much more interesting stuff going on in documentaries and also on the how you say the cross section of documentary and fiction films than in most of the fiction films. So I think few of the best films of the last years were documentaries or hybrid films with documentary elements. So in that way I think it's a good time for documentaries. On the other hand, you also experience that it's much more difficult to get an audience for documentaries in the cinema than for fiction films. And although the Documentary Film Festival in Amsterdam is one of the largest in the world, or the largest in the world, and attracts a huge audience, the big problem is that they only come when there is the festival, and during the year when the same films are screened in cinemas, it's for a handful of people. But I really hope that especially the more interesting and auto documentaries really will attract an audience in the cinema as well. And we try to work on that and try to stimulate it. No, as a distributor we have really a limited task, and it's mainly classics that we distribute. But of course International, which is the part of the institute that promotes Dutch films abroad, they take care of all the Dutch documentaries. Yes, that's right. But as a venue and as a screening facility, it's a selection of what is made both in our own country and outside what we screen. Yeah, you have the Institute Image and Sound. It's connected to the broadcasting companies. So as a lot of non-fiction work is safeguarded by them. So it's in their collection. So they have the newsreels footage, and they also have a lot of documentaries and films that were made, were asked to be made. So our archive is mainly for fiction films and the documentary author films. And of course there's always some tension. So for instance a director like Bert Haanstra or Johan van der Keuken, it fits a bit in both categories. So those are debatable bodies of work. But of course now in this age it's easy to have the material stored at one location, but the other location is doing something with it in the programming or in the exhibitions.